Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Banshee's Last Cry. So last time we played, we had a bit of an odd experience where the first ending was kind of like a weird joke ending having to do with the game itself, and the other one was just a very nonsensical ending, which I still found fun, even if they are a little odd, but maybe we should head back into something a bit more serious. And it all starts back here at the beginning. A lot of this is going to be the same, so I'm going to be doing a fair bit of skimming through here. So we're going to start off with, yeah, pretty much. And let's head back already. Head to our rooms to change, then meet up in the lounge. Beautiful, isn't she? Not as much as you, Grace. I really think so. How do you feel about me? I asked straightforwardly. Now, I don't think this is very important, but this is what the guide says, so I'm just going to go with it. We're like, how about making a night run or two? And we're like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And then, of course, Abby goes and tells us that's a bad idea, and we're going to say, yeah, let's forget about it. Really, I'm still tired from today, so it could still be dangerous. You're probably right, Grace said. I kind of like the job I have right now. Well, let me give it some thought. Whoa boy, I gotta tell you, sitting in a cozy room drinking an ice-cold beer while the snow is coming down outside. It don't get any better than this, don't you think? Mr. Buchanan had a big grin on his face. I don't think so. If you ask me, the best thing is eating a bowl of 5-alarm chili indoors in the summertime with the AC blasting. Well, sorry, Sonny, but that don't touch eating a big old cherry ice pop at the South Pole in front of a raging wood stove. Yeah, that's not bad. But if you really want to live, you gotta go into a walk-in freezer, dead smack in the equator, then enough already. What's with all this walk-in freezer stuff? Isn't this beer good enough for you guys? Grace sounded pretty fed up. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so that one, I don't think that one was very important, but it's a funny one. Alright, so last time we were here, we got to the point, because remember they got a note that says, at midnight equals death. And we're trying to talk about it, and Faber's like, wait, what happened earlier? And before we said the exact same thing that we were supposed to be hiding, but this is a good opportunity to try to lie and say they were talking about us getting snowed in and starving to death. Wow, is that right? Well, I don't think that's going to happen, Faber said, smiling broadly. And it doesn't honestly make that big of a difference. Alright, so last time we were here, we didn't really have very much of an option here. All that happened was, here, let me back up a bit, is we knocked on Mr. Jones's door, you know, we're trying to figure out if he's there or not, and, we decide to open the door. We get hit by a blast of wind. Mr. Jones, I had a first look at the room, it had twin beds just like mine. The heavy curtain on the window was flapping really hard. Are you in there? Do you think he jumped out? Why would he do that? I had no answer, of course. Meanwhile, he seemed to be hesitating. And normally at this point, we automatically say without a choice, aren't you going to take a look? I asked him. But what if this time we instead say with our new option, I stepped around him and went in myself. Shivering from the icy wind, I made my way deeper into the room. Suddenly, something on the ground caught my eye. It looked like a kind of note crumpled into a ball. Bending down to pick it up, I noticed that part of it was smeared with what looked like red ink. It was blood. Careful not to touch the blood, I picked it up with the tips of my fingers and opened it. Grace and Mr. Forrest peeked curiously from behind. A mysterious message was written inside. Acquire the treasure in the snowflake. Yeah, this is the only time, by the way, that we'll ever have to... Well, there's one other time, but this message is the only time we ever have to scroll left and right. Acquire the treasure in the snowflake. Just look between 1 and 3. Scan the path to the underworld. Skip to the well with the pulley. Go faster than the one you resemble, for then you will find what you seek. What's this? It's like some kind of poem. Grace sounded disappointed. More importantly, whose blood is this? Mr. Forrest's brows furrowed as he considered my question. Mr. Jones's, maybe? Hurriedly, we searched the room to see if he was lying injured somewhere. We looked under the bed, in the bathroom, and even in the closet, but there was no sign of him. If this is Mr. Jones's blood, he must have been badly hurt. Did he jump out the window? Mr. Forrest went to the glass and peered out into the fearsome storm. We'll have to go out and look for him, Grace said. I know it's cold, but we'll just have to bundle up. The rest of us nodded in agreement. I like this music a lot. It's actually really mysterious, but not like scary mysterious, just like what's going on mysterious. Like being in a ruin's mysterious, that type of mysterious. All of us, including those peeking in from the hallway, went to the lounge to relax. I spread the mysterious message out on the table so everyone could see it. What does this mean? Abby asked, frowning. I don't know. This is all that was left. It looks like some kind of hint for finding a treasure. Treasure? Like what? Abby said sarcastically, nearly rolling her eyes. You actually think there's a secret pirate treasure somewhere near here? I nodded. Could be, and it doesn't just have to be buried treasure. It could be normal money or jewels or something. But whatever it is, Mr. Jones left this before he disappeared. And judging by the blood in it, there must have been some kind of struggle. I think the most likely explanation is that there really is a treasure, and the fight was over how to divvy it up. Mr. Forrest looked skeptical. But even if that's true, why would the treasure be here at the Snowflake Inn? I started to think out loud to myself. Well, for example, maybe some jewel thieves on the run stayed here one night. They could have hidden their treasure somewhere so it'd be safe. Then, 1 year later, they sent someone to pick it up, and that someone was Mr. Jones. Wait a minute, Grace interrupted. That makes no sense. What makes no sense? Well, if Mr. Jones was just here to pick up the treasure, why would he need that note? Don't you think maybe he was carrying it because he didn't know where it was hidden? She made a lot of sense. That's a good point. So, maybe Mr. Jones wasn't one of them. Maybe he was a treasure hunter who somehow got his hands on a note that one of the criminals wrote. But then they found out about it, so they came after him. Bobby interrupted with an irritated voice. I'm not interested in your speculation. Bottom line is, we need to figure out the puzzle, right? When we do that, we'll find out if there's a treasure. Now, let me see that. He reached out for the note. What's this between 1 and 3 business? 2's between 1 and 3, right? So I guess that means one of the rooms on the second floor. Bingo, son, that's this floor. Mr. Buchanan leaped up excitedly. Well, the first one might have not been Mr. Buchanan, oh well. Amber, honey, let's go. Right away, sweetie pie. The two of them took off and dashed towards the room quicker than we could blink. The rest of us watched in amazement. Shouldn't we go too? Grace asked, turning to the others. Yeah, we better. Hurriedly, I stood up and followed the Buchanans. They were in the hallway looking around aimlessly, unsure where to go. Sweetie pie, over here! Amber pointed to Mr. Jones's room. Seeing them burst into Mr. Jones's room, the rest of us rushed after him. Max, you're in the way! Well, you were too, Grace. Hey, did you put on weight? Oh, that's just rude! As we grumbled and fussed, the Buchanans checked the closet, bathroom, and under the bed, but I could tell from Mr. Buchanan's sigh of frustration that they hadn't found anything. Dag-nabbit! Not a thing! As soon as they heard him say that, the people behind me immediately rushed off. Apparently they had decided to look in their own rooms first. I quickly rushed back to my own room as well. I looked in all the places that I thought might be concealing a hidden trap or mechanism or hole, but I didn't find anything. I wondered how the others were doing. I ran out into the hallway to see and found that they all had disappointed looks on their faces. So it wasn't here on this floor after all. We should take another look at the message, Grace said. I nodded and we returned to the lounge. That's when I decided to relax and read the message again. That's when Grace said something unexpected. Wait a second, Snowflake. Maybe that doesn't necessarily mean here. Huh? What do you mean? Well, it doesn't capitalize the word snowflake, right? So maybe it's not a name, but actually referring to the real snowflakes. You know, the ones that fall from the sky. Oh, I know. But how could there be a treasure inside real snowflakes, Abby asked. Well, it could mean that it's on the ski slope somewhere. If that's true, then between 1 and 2, that could mean it's on slope number 2 or something. A slope? Abby nodded vigorously in agreement. That's it. I'm sure you're right. There's just no way someone could have hidden a treasure here without any of us knowing. That was a good point. And if it was on the slopes, it would just be a simple matter of digging a hole and burying it. That seemed like something a criminal would do, somehow. If that's true, then maybe they took Mr. Jones out to the ski lift to find it. Bobby folded his arms. He began muttering to himself. But if it's the slopes, what would the underworld mean? I don't know, probably something dangerous, like, if you're not careful, it'll kill you and you'll go to hell, type of thing. Yeah, that made sense too, near the dangerous areas on slope 2. But nothing after that part of the message made any sense. Shouldn't we, just tell the police? Faberge asked nervously. And what are we supposed to say? That we should go to the ski slopes and round up some crooks digging up buried treasure? Bobby's voice dripped with sarcasm. We can't tell them to do that without some kind of proof. That was a good point, too. But they forced Mr. Jones to lead them to the treasure. They might just kill him once they find it. Grace looked doubtful about that. A scrap of paper with some blood in it doesn't prove that there's some kind of crime going on. It could just be some joke that Mr. Jones is playing. Maybe he had a nosebleed for all we know. A nosebleed? I hadn't thought about that, but it was certainly plausible. So, let's go to the hill and look for Mr. Jones ourselves, I said. Mr. Forrest and Bobby both shook their heads in unison. That would be crazy, Bobby said. Go to the slopes right now, in this weather? No way. Besides, the message is so vague. How do we even know if we're understanding it correctly? Just then, Mr. and Mrs. Buchanan came in looking rather disappointed. Apparently they hadn't found anything. Say, would you mind showing me that note again? Mr. Buchanan asked. I turned the message towards him. He concentrated on it for a few seconds and loudly shouted, Ah, the basement! It's in the basement! Come on, Amber, let's move! Of course, honey pie, right away! The two of them ran towards the basement and disappeared from sight. We just watched, dumbfounded, then turned back to the mysterious message. With the pulley. Is there a well anywhere near here? We used to have a well, but it was the kind with a hand pump. I've never seen one around here with one of those old-fashioned pulleys. Suddenly, Debbie shouted, Hey, do you think the one you resemble might be talking about, like, a mirror? A mirror? Tiffany asked. Yeah, 'cause when you look in a mirror, you see someone you resemble, right? So, what would it mean to go faster than a mirror image? Beats me. But they've never heard of Sonic. But maybe there's a clue behind the mirror or something. It didn't entirely make logical sense, but somehow, a mirror did seem like a good hiding place. Bobby seemed to agree. Well, there's only a few mirrors in here. Why don't we start by having everyone check the mirrors in their own room first? Bobby left to check his own room. Everyone else followed his lead and headed off as well. 10 minutes later, everyone was back in the lounge, looking somewhat disheartened. Only Mr. Forrest appeared happy with himself. Come on, guys, he said. Did you really think that there would be something hidden behind a mirror that I wouldn't know about it? That was a good point, too. Would have been nice of him to mention that before. We had reached a stalemate. I was starting to think it'd be impossible to pull any more meaning out of the message than we already had. Wait a second, Grace said, suddenly. Could this possibly be a code? Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously a code for something. Bobby didn't seem very interested in her idea. No, I don't mean that. I mean, maybe the words themselves don't really mean anything. Don't mean anything? I asked. Yeah, like maybe if you followed some rule for rearranging the words or letters, it would spell out something else? Ah, I hadn't considered that. On first glance, the message seemed to be talking about the location of a treasure. But maybe we needed to look at the note in some whole new way. Once again, we read it over from the beginning. Acquire the treasure in the snowflake, just look between 1 and 3. Scan the path to the underworld, skip to the well with the pulley. Go faster than the one you resemble, for then you will find what you seek. Huh? Oh, for Christ's sakes. Suddenly, something came to me. I've got it! I shouted. What? Really? Grace replied. Yes, really. It's actually really simple. I can't believe I didn't figure this out earlier. Really? Are you really, really sure? Yeah, I just said so, didn't I? I got it. Alright, so where's the treasure at? My head spun at the force behind Mr. Buchanan's question. Well, let's see. It's in the lounge. In the lounge? In this room? Everyone looked around. Some of them looked excited, while others were more doubtful. So, where exactly? Mr. Forrest asked, his voice quiet but intense. Above our heads. Above our heads? All at once, everyone looked up at the ceiling. I hope you don't mean the fluorescent light, said Grace. Standing up, I walked towards the wall. I looked at the cuckoo clock and stared at it. It was almost 11 o'clock. Reaching out, I pried open the doors that the cuckoo came out of, stood up on my tiptoes and peeked inside. I saw something that looked like a small bag wedged into the space inside. Bingo! I reached in with 2 fingers and grabbed it. Shocked, everyone stood up and ran towards me. It was a small leather pouch. I untied the cord and shook the contents out into my open palm. Red and green gems sparkled under the fluorescent lights. The people gasped around me in surprise. Grace peered more closely at my open hand. There's a slip of paper in there, too. Mixed among the gems was a small folded piece of paper. Grace unfolded and read it. Let's see. It says, Congratulations! You solved the puzzle. The treasure is yours. So I can really keep this? I asked in amazement. I never thought for a minute that we would find an actual treasure. Hey, hang on a second there, muchacho. All of us was looking for it, right? I don't think it's right for you to keep it in for yourself. Suddenly Amber turned and scolded Mr. Buchanan harshly. Now you hush right now. We didn't solve the riddle, so we've got no right to any of that stuff. Up until then, I thought she was just an obedient Southern belle. Now I could see who really wore the pants in the family. But how did you figure that out that it was in here anyway? It was actually pretty simple. I just read it from top down instead of sideways. What? The top down? What? AJSSGF. That doesn't make any sense. Try the second row of letters this time. Oh, that's pretty neat, isn't it? Look at that. Not the first letter, but the second letter. Read it down. Cuckoo. Oh god, I can't believe I missed it. Grace looked genuinely disappointed. I guess you think you're pretty smart, but I would have figured it out sooner or later too. Do you have to be all jealous like that? Just compliment me on my cleverness and leave it at that. I said to her in a condescending voice. You need help with your ego. Seriously, Max. I don't know why this text is all weird like this. So anyhow, there's still this little old matter of a treasure to discuss. Mr. Buchanan, no man's fool, whispered in a quiet, oily tone of voice. Let's just reset this conversation and start from the beginning, okay? Now, what exactly is on your mind? There's a button that exists in everyone's brain, and I knew that for Buchanan, it was all about money. Alrighty then, how much you gonna give us? You're gonna shake me down for money now? Is that what this is? No kid, it ain't like that. I got a friend who's a jeweler and I figured I could sell it to him if you give me a small commission. Ha, well instead of counting our chickens before they're hatched, how about we focus on finding some first, okay? Grace laughed knowingly. We won't be selling these. Why not? Grace asked. He asked. Grace paused for a moment, and when she continued, her words were small and deliberate. I only read the first half of the message. Let me read the last part. It says, P.S. These are actually just glass gems. Total value, about $5. Signed, William Forrest. Mr. Forrest? That was like a Scooby-Doo villain right there. Everyone except Mr. Forrest and myself gasped in surprise. Being generally skeptical by nature, I wasn't shocked to hear that the gems were just fakes. In my experience, if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. What did surprise me, though, was the name at the end. So this was all set up by you, Mr. Forrest. The disapproval was pretty clear in my voice. He scratched his head uncomfortably. I'm afraid so. I thought it might be a little fun adventure. Sort of a treasure hunt for my guests. I had no idea people would take it so seriously. I'm really sorry. Oh, it's okay. Besides, it was fun, wasn't it, Max? Yeah, ha ha ha. A million laughs. Good one there, Mr. Forrest. With Grace there, I did my best to play it off casually, but inside, I was actually disappointed. My fake laugh ran out of steam, and an uncomfortable silence followed until Mr. Buchanan broke it. Yep, that's a good one, alright. I knew these were fake all along, but I reckon I'd play along with Billy Boy's gag, that's all. Strangely enough, Mr. Buchanan's laugh seemed to get more and more real as he went on. By the way, what happened to that Mr. Jones guy anyway? Grace asked casually. Mr. Forrest smiled. Oh, well, that was part of the act, naturally. He's an old friend of mine. I had him hide in my room. I'll go get him. Let's all have a drink and bury the hatchet, okay? With that, Mr. Forrest left in the direction of his room. Oh dear, what a child he is, Colleen said, giggling. I'm so embarrassed. He went way too far if you ask me, Bobby complained resentfully. I mean, putting blood on the message like that? Come on. Well, maybe so, but you have to admit, it was kind of thrilling. Besides, no harm, no foul, right? Just as Abby said that, Mr. Forrest came running back into the room. What is it? Colleen asked. Is something wrong? All eyes turned to Mr. Forrest. His face was as wide as a ghost, and his eyes were wide with shock. Like a silent movie, his mouth worked up and down as if, someone tried to turn off my... stupid... Hold on. I always forget to put my phone on airplane mode. Come on, Colleen said, a laugh in her voice. Is this another one of your pranks? But as she looked at her husband, her smile transformed into a look of fear. Mr. Forrest swallowed heavily before he managed to find his voice. Dead! He's dead! Everyone in the room gasped with shock. Grace laughed a bit. Sorry, Uncle Bell, but you're not going to fool me again. No, it's true! He's there, chopped into little pieces. Little pieces? Grace whispered to herself in shock. That was when our terrible night really began. I like that one. Do you guys like that one? Let me know if you like that one in particular. I think that one's kind of interesting. So, obviously that's different from the main story, but I kind of choose to believe that that one, and I mean this is just in my interpretation of course, but I choose to believe that this is probably the same storyline as the original story, just change the fact that Mr. Jones is a real person this time. And that Faber's killed him. Maybe, I don't know. It's a possibility, and that's what I like to think of as is it's basically like an alternate version of the first chapter. I like that. Now, of course, so this is called the Code chapter. Now we have two more things, and we have a tiny bit more time. So I think we're going to start. Let's see. I don't know how I want to do this, because I honestly think this next part isn't going to take a full episode. But it is going to be a little bit long, so we're going to make an extended episode today. Give me just a moment to take a break, and then we'll be right back for the second half of the episode. We have 2 more endings, but most of them I think are fairly short. One of them's a bit of a read, but it's also short. Anyway, I'll be right back. Alright, so at this point, we're going to back up to the solution, and we're at the same point where we're like, okay, something came to me. Let's see, I've got it. And now we say, actually this one doesn't matter. We can either say it's outside the building or it's at the front desk. Let's say it's outside the building, just for the heck of it. Why outside? Grace asked pointedly. The message says, in the snowflake. Or does it actually mean something else? Well, the truth is I was just kind of guessing, I confessed. Now this is going to lead to the same ending, so let's backpedal for a second and say it's at the front desk. The front desk? Why the front desk? Let's just go and look, okay? Standing there, I headed to the front desk. The others followed, somewhat reluctantly. So, where is it? Yeah, where could it be? My mind raced as I looked around the room. Max, you just came in here on a hunch, didn't you? I bet you were lying when you said you figured out the message. Well, yeah, I confessed. Grace grunted. You had me all excited. Debbie yawned loudly. I'm starting to feel, like, really sleepy. Wow, look how late it is. Molly looked at the clock. It was already after 11. I'm going to bed. If you find the treasure, like, show it to me in the morning, okay? Night. The 3 girls went to their room. Everyone else slowly wandered out of the dining area. Man, I'm pretty wiped out, too. What do you say we hit the hay, Amber honey? Sounds good to me. Sleep well, y'all. As they walked back to their room, Mr. Buchanan's voice could still be heard reverberating through the inn. You know, I remember when I was a young buck. I used to stay up all night with no problem. Everyone else seemed to have lost their enthusiasm for treasure hunting. I think I'm going to go to bed too, Grace said quietly. It's pretty late. Yeah, me too, Bobby said dismissively. I bet the treasure would just turn out to be some stupid piece of junk anyway. Alright, see you in the morning. One after another, the others stood up and went off to their own rooms. Only Mr. Forrest tried to stop the others from leaving. What, so everyone's just going to give up? Don't these blood smears bother you? It's probably just from a nosebleed or something, Bobby said, yawning. Yeah, but where did Mr. Jones go anyway? Probably out night skiing, Grace said. He'll be back soon, don't you think? This late at night? I don't think so. Listen, Uncle Bill, if you plan on looking for him, could you just go yourself? I'm really tired. One after another, everyone left. Grace and I were the last ones to head back to our rooms. Sure, Mr. Forrest. So, like I said, I like to imagine it as a, the last ending as a continuation of the first story, but you could also look at this as possibly, because see, Mr. Forrest was the only one that really knew where Mr. Jones went, so to speak. What if Mr. Forrest killed Mr. Jones? Somehow, I'm not sure yet, but what if he did? Or maybe Mr. Forrest was the killer, and instead of hiding the body in, quote, Mr. Jones's room, he hid it in his own room, and then he was going to come out and say, whoa, you know, the same thing again. So that's kind of another interesting way to look at that, isn't it? I think so. And finally, we have one last one. This last one, I'm going to tell you, is weird. It's odd, and it's weird in a way that we haven't seen yet. Let's just say that. Breaking the fourth wall weird. You guys like that, right? Yeah. So, be back in just a moment. Alright, so, you remember this screen? We had, this is where we learned about Cuckoo. From acquired, just scan, skip, go, for C-U-C-K-O-O. But, as I said here, I don't know why this text is like this. I just lied, and you guys might have picked up on that, I'm not sure. But this text is really odd. It's the only point in the game that they give us text this big. Well, what we're supposed to do here is, we have to start reading the text down here, this really large text, which I can't point at because I'm, don't have a finger on here, but, we have to start reading every third word in each line. So let's go from the top. You have to help. There's no reset button. How? Shake it. So what do? We have to do something that's not going to translate very well on YouTube. Shake my iPhone. There, I hope you heard all that clattering noise. I have no idea who's reading this right now. I don't know if you're a child, adult, man, or a woman. If you're a gamer, you might be very well in the age range that bears the burden of bearing the backbone of our society. Whatever the case, if you're just a normal person who bought this game purely for enjoyment, I sincerely pray that you're not in league with them. I have no idea who you are, but at this point, you should at least know about me. At the very least, you've seen my name in commercials or in the credits for this game. My name is Takemaru Abiko. No, I'm just a ghostwriter. The guy behind the scenes who made that name famous. That's me. You may have seen someone's face in a strategy guide or a magazine, but that wasn't me. I wrote most of Banshee's Last Cry from inside the R&D room in the offices of Spike Chunsoft. Right now, I'm writing this while I let them think that I'm actually doing work. That's right. By them, I mean the employees of Spike Chunsoft. To be honest, at first I thought I was one of them too, a Spike Chunsoft employee. But as I got involved in the Banshee's Last Cry project and continued on the progress on the game continued, I began to learn the frightening truth behind the conspiracy. Naturally, I tried to run, but they caught me after just one step. Since then, I've been imprisoned in this room and forced to work. Fortunately for them, I have no relatives and very few friends in the company, so they probably isn't anyone looking for me. I think they plan to kill me when this job is finished, so by the time you reread this, I've probably already been murdered by them. I tried so many times to escape, but each time they caught me and tortured me in ways that I don't even want to remember. I have no hope that I'll survive, but I'm writing this so I can stop their secret plot by letting the whole world know about it. I'm going to hide this message in the game in such a way that you have to break the code to find it. By doing that, I can communicate this truth with the rest of the world without them finding out about it. It would be great if I could insert this message into the App Store reviews or something, but that would increase the danger of being discovered. Instead, I designed it so that only a very few gamers would ever find this message. Ultimately, I have no idea if anyone will actually find this, or even if they do, whether they will believe it. I can't even be sure that they won't check the code, find this and throw it away before the game is released. But there's no point in worrying about any of that. All I can do is keep writing in the hope that some decent person is reading this. You've probably heard about subliminal messages. They refer to messages that are so subtle that the conscious mind isn't even aware of them, but which work on the subconscious mind. They can include soft sounds, quick flashes of images, things like that. Well, they have been experimenting with ways to insert subliminal messages into games. It started with the game Death Seed. The messages themselves were relatively harmless, things like, Spike Chunsoft is fun, and things like that. They sent out games with hidden messages and games without them, to different regions to ascertain whether or not it had any effect on sales. They learned the answer to that question in the game Mystery Dungeon, Shiren the Wanderer. The sales numbers for the games with the hidden messages were stunning. At this point, you can probably already see some ethical problems with this kind of business behavior. But their true goal was not to make money. It was to brainwash gamers while they were still young, and turn them into zealous Spike Chunsoft worshippers. When the children who played these games grew up, their hope was that they would not see Spike Chunsoft not just as a game company, but as a complex multinational religious and political organization. When that happens, the brainwashed users will worship President Koichi Nakamura as a god, vote en masse for the Spike Chunsoft party, and keep playing Spike Chunsoft games even as they nourish themselves on instant Spike Chunsoft food products. That is their true purpose, to take economic, political, and religious control over the whole world. I know how ridiculous this might all sound, but it's true. You've probably played this game over several times by now, and my guess is already you've developed a strange loyalty towards Spike Chunsoft. If you've only played it 10 times or less, the brainwashing is not yet complete. But if you played it 20 or 30 times, You won't believe what I'm saying here no matter how many times you've read it. But I tell you, it's all true. I want to expose this conspiracy. All you have to do is place one call to the phone number I'm going to leave you with. It's the phone number of the one person left in the world that I can trust. Tell him everything I told you. That will be enough. You won't be in any danger. In fact, telling what you know will reduce the danger to you. I wasn't planning on telling you this because I didn't want to frighten you, but I realize now that I must. Even if I do manage to hide this message in the transmission data, they will eventually discover what I've done. Once that happens, it will be a simple matter for them to find out who has received this message. All they have to do is look at the data stored on the server. Even if you bought this game anonymously, you can't rest easy. Most likely, they'll be able to trace where this data went after about a month or so. If more than a month has passed since you bought it, you can be certain that they've already tracked you down and know exactly who you are. Your home is undoubtedly already being spied on by high-tech microphones and infrared cameras. Infrared. Wait. Don't even think about looking out your window to try to spot them. Oh, there they are! Oh, no, that's not them. That's just a duck. Never mind. You'll just make yourself an easy target for their sniper rifles. Don't even stand near the window. What I want you to do right now is get on the floor, crawl to the phone and call my friend. Right now, they're deciding whether or not they need to do something to shut your mouth. There's no time left. If you call the number and give them everything you know, they'll have no more reason to go after you. So if you want to go on living, you need to call the number right now. Hurry! If you don't hurry, they'll come after you. Maybe they'll come pretending to be offering magazine subscriptions or something. Oh no, I hear their footsteps coming. That one was interesting, right? What do you guys think? I thought that one was kind of interesting. A little long-winded, so to speak, but... And breaking the fourth wall, definitely, but... That was a fun one. Let me look online. I've never actually done this. Let me look online and see if anyone has written anything about this. Like, if there's anything more to this ending than I've just read. Something kind of cool. I don't know. And one last thing I wanted to say. This ending right here we have to see the rest of the game. And the rest of the game is going to be, for lack of a better explanation, the video game endings. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it so far. Let me take a quick look online and see if anyone else has written anything on this. Yeah, nobody really has talked about it. There's only a few threads online, and almost all of them have been deleted, which is kind of concerning, honestly. Like, I don't know if that was, like, intentional to go in line with the story, but that's really funny that there's about, like, 2 or 3 discussion threads, and when I go to them it says page not found. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and next time, I don't know if we'll quite finish it up. I mean, there's a lot of endings, but here's the thing, is that the main route is probably about 15 minutes, and each individual ending is like a minute long. And there's like 10 endings, but, we might be able to do it in one episode. I might just make an extra long episode to deal with it, but I hope you guys have enjoyed so far. Very interesting game, and it's coming to a close, and, I wouldn't be disappointed to see, like, like a sequel or something to this, something else like this, because this was a very fun game. Definitely had a very, 999 Virtue's Last Reward to it towards the beginning feeling. Maybe not Virtue's Last Reward, more 999, but it had that feel definitely towards the beginning, being from the same people, and it's a fun one. I liked it. Anyway, we'll be back next time to either finish or get ready to finish up the game. Hope you enjoyed. Bye!